If you're not already building GPTs for your own personal or internal like team company use, this is a great way to get started and to think about doing that instead of only thinking about the ones that are public facing or for chat support or as a lead magnet or anything like that.
Joined with us today, Leandra Nisbet, to share a bit about how she is scaling her business with AI. Leandra, welcome to the Scale with AI Summit series.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Darby. I'm thrilled to be here and be presenting for the summit. Okay, so I wanted to talk today about some tips and actionable steps for creating a custom GPT to help you with boosting productivity. So what you'll gain during this time are practical and actionable tips that you can use to help leverage the information that you're learning. We're all learning things at a very rapid pace these days in particular. And I'm sure that if you're like me and most other people that I talk to, you have a store of information just sitting around, probably collecting some digital dust that you could be utilizing to its full potential to help you with boosting your productivity. And one of the things that I like is looking at how to increase your return on your investment. So maybe it's from the courses, training classes, programs, masterminds, et cetera, that you're a part of. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So just a quick introduction for anyone that I have not met or had the opportunity to connect with. My name is Leandra Nisbet, and I am the founder and owner of a professional services company. Our main goal and passion is on helping small business owners launch, grow, and scale their business. And here's just some additional information about me and my background. And I personally love tech, automation, process improvement, efficiencies, order and structure, and then also the shiny object syndrome that comes with tech because everything's changing so quickly. So what I really wanted to be able to highlight is how you can be leveraging the information that we have access to and that you've probably been compiling over the weeks, months, years that still have value that maybe you're not actually leaning into. If you're anything like me, you probably have found yourself in one of these types of situations or scenarios. We're attending summits, we're going to trainings, workshops, we're part of a mastermind, you're listening to a ton of podcast episodes, you're just binge watching YouTube content, you have notes here, you have paper workbooks, manuals, all the things everywhere. And I guess I should have prefaced this. I like interaction. So if you have comments, reactions, put them in the chat, anything like that. And I will be leaving time for questions as well. Definitely feel free to start adding anything that is coming to mind for you. But you probably have all of this wealth of data and information. I don't know how fully you're leveraging it, however. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how you're able to easily and quickly start utilizing all of the information that you have compiled over the years. So step one is physically pulling all of those things together. You probably have workbooks that were emailed to you from a course that you joined. You have the paper copy that the organization mailed you to participate in the event. You have the PDF workbooks or guides that were sent out or added to a chat when you were at an event. You have the paper copies of information that you've received when you were at an in-person training. And you have what somebody shared with you through Google Drive and all of these things. So step one is going to be pulling that information together. So your goal here is to figure out how you can create your own centralized database or data store. Collection is the simplest way to think of it, of information that you can access. And then once you have all of these things pulled together, maybe this is the meeting notes, workbooks, like I said, handouts, other resources. What I want you to be able to do from there is look at step two and determine what your actionable goals are based on the material that you've compiled. What I'm going to be walking through as an example is thinking about goal setting and planning. Excuse me. So what I'm going to be walking through is thinking about goal setting and planning. And so in this case, the goals that I might have identified are that I want to be able to utilize the information that I have access to be able to help me create an actionable weekly plan. I would like help and support with creating quarterly plans and also keeping up with my daily time management to keep me aligned with the goals that I've identified. In other examples, your goals could be things like, I just want to have a better understanding. We went through a lot of information very quickly, and it was like drinking from a fire hose. I wasn't able to fully digest everything that came up, but now I have all of these resources and materials, and I'd like to be able to go through it at my own pace, at my own time, and be able to really get actionable takeaways from this information. So, in that case, your goal could be I just want some help getting through this a little bit more and being able to have a better understanding of what was even covered. I've certainly been a part of trainings where there were certain aspects that were applicable to me in the moment. And then there were other things that even right then I knew I'm not going to be in a position to do anything with this until 3 months from now, 6 months from now. In the in between, it's out of sight, out of mind. But your goal might be to say, okay, now I'm coming back to this content. Please get me up to speed. How can I start to leverage this and get reacclimated with the information that I received? And now I'm ready to start actually applying it. And then once you have gathered all of the information that you have, pulled everything together, and you've slowed down and taken the step to figure out how you actually want to use it, because the answer could be different for all of us and based on where you are. I'm speaking from a business owner perspective, but where you are at your stage of business or in your goal setting, etc. So what you're able to now do with this information is to create your own data store, or what I'm going to show you is like your own custom GPT to compile these resources. I think right now it's really common for people to think about building a GPT that they can use as a support chatbot, or it's something they can build into a digital course to support their students moving through the process. Or it's something that they can use maybe in other ways internally. But sometimes you're not thinking about how we can use the GPTs that we can create for our own utilization and something that only you're interacting with, that it's just private to you. Let's jump over, if my cursor wants to cooperate, to ChatGPT. Let me see if my screen share is jumping with me. Okay, awesome. What I want to show you in here, and this would require the pro version of ChatGPT. If you do not already have that, you would need to upgrade to be able to create your own GPT. But there are other tools that you can use for building out data stores. There's another tool that I've used to create other agents and data stores as well. It's called Team AI. And what I like about their model is or their platform, excuse me, is that it brings together all of the models of various AI tools so that you're able to interact with those in addition to your own content. But I figure with the majority of people continuing to utilize ChatGPT, and it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon, that this would be a great place to start and walk you through how to create one of your own GPTs with your own content and information. We're in here in ChatGPT, and we'll just simply go into create our own GPT. And this is the screen that you'll come to. So you'll want to name your GPT. And as I said, for this example, I'll walk through creating one for, let's do time management and planning assistant. And I always like to add a little image. You don't really have to, it's just a personal thing. But we'll do something fun and bright and interactive. So for the description, let's see here, I've already set these up just for efficiency with the walkthrough and the demo. This GPT will provide support with daily, weekly, monthly, and annual planning and goal setting. This will be just an internal description for you, something to help remind you as you come in to interact and engage with your GPT, what the purpose is. And this will be, as I said, private to you. This isn't one that's going to be published or shared externally. So you really want to be specific as you are when you're interacting with AI at any time, but then also being able to make sure that it is, thank you, that it is clear to you as you especially are moving forward with ChatGPT and creating a lot of GPTs, that you know who you're interacting with and what the specific tool is for you. In the instructions, this is a great place to be detailed and to really, it gives you a couple prompts here. It asks you, what does this GPT do? How does it behave? And what should it avoid doing? Just to help with prompting some ideas. This is an opportunity for you to say who this GPT is, how you want to engage and interact with it, how you want it to interact with you. I always like to include details about the tone that I want my content to be provided in? Are there things that I want, specific actions that I want it to do? Here is very simple. Again, the tip here and the goal is to make sure that this is something that's approachable. So you could jump into ChatGPT right now and be building out one of these for yourself as we go. And you could be thinking about, as we're going through the summit, how you can be creating your notes and the information that you're gathering and compiling it into then be able to be built into your own GPT, just like this. So very simply, again, you could be much more detailed in here, but what I have put for this one is this GPT is a professional coach that is focused on helping provide support, accountability, and guidance. It is approachable, polished, and professional. The goal is to help users move forward and implement what they've learned. It should ask questions for added clarity, excuse me, for added context and clarify as needed. I don't typically do a lot with the conversation starters in this case because this is something that I'm just using and I'll be using the chat. I'll be telling the GPT what I want and what information I'm looking for or how I want support or to be able to interact with the content that I'm adding into this. So I'll skip the conversation starters for now, but when you're building these out for external use and things, the conversation starters can be helpful because you can build in, just as an example, I'll just show you this. So you can put in information and then you'll see on this preview on the right-hand side, now it would be an initial starter. But we don't need those in this case, so I will just keep moving. What you will want to focus on, however, is this knowledge section to be able to upload the information that you want to be able to utilize in here. And this, I have created a couple of resources specifically to show for this example. And I will be putting in ones for annual, daily, and weekly planning. And I've built these out with details within each resource, as well as the step-by-step. Actually, I didn't want to, we have weekly, annual, and let's get this daily resource in here as well. Built these out with details about how I want the GPT to walk me through the information and step-by-step instructions. I built these out as prompts. I'm still used to the old terminology with recipes, and so that's still how I create prompts when I'm building things out. So that's how I've created these specific PDFs that I've added as the knowledge base or data store for this GPT. And then you'll see your preview on the right-hand side, and you can even begin interacting with this to just test out how it's going to work. And then, to my knowledge, and I don't know if this has been updated, the last I knew you were able to upload, I believe it's 20 files into a knowledge base in here. So you may want to definitely think about that in advance when you're going to be building out your own. Also thinking about just getting creative with how you run into a situation where you're not able to actually upload as many files as you need. So there was a question about being able to see one of the PDFs. Yes, I can open that and I will show that at the end. Let me go ahead and create this and show you. Great question. So I'm only going to allow this to be used for me. I definitely don't want this published in the GPT store, and I don't even need it publicized where if I share the link with somebody else that they're able to interact with it either. Okay, so let's just go ahead and jump into this. And it says my GPT is published. Let's jump in here. I've added a couple just basic things. I always like pleasantries, even if I'm talking to AI. But hi, I'd help creating my annual plan. Okay. What this is doing here, it's following the steps that I've used in the resource that I created and used in the knowledge files, the database basically that I've created inside this GPT. I'm saying I'd help with my annual plan, and it's saying, okay, perfect. Let's do a reflection on last year, what went well, and we can use that as a starting point. We won't get too deep into this. I'll just go into a couple of steps just so that you can see how it will work. And then I did another prompt as well to pull from a different resource, and we'll see how it responds to that. I don't know. Let's just see here. I just say last year was good. I was able to accomplish most of my goals and continue learning new skills. And then it's asking for any specific examples. One, as you can see, it's following the prompt where I said to ask questions or gain clarity if necessary. I think that's an important step to note, and it's continuing the conversations. I don't know, a little more detail. I enjoyed learning about AI, building my own resource, my team, and growing my business. Oops. Okay, so now that's what I wanted to see. So it's moving on to step two, which are based on the prompts that I created to tell it how I want to be able to use or create an annual plan. And then we'll just do we'll just switch topics here. Like I'll just say, let's shift gears here, please. Just say, okay, let's move on. I had also put in a prompt and recipe for daily time management. So to say, oh, I'm getting distracted by pop-up tasks during my day. Can you help me get back on track? So let's see if it references the daily time management. Okay, so now it's asking me, let's see where you're currently at. Where are you getting stuck? We can just say, let's see here. It's asking me, what would you say is your biggest struggle when it comes to daily time management? You mentioned pop-up tasks. Can you share more about what those usually are? Yes, absolutely. I'll just say it's generally emails that keep popping up and unexpected phone calls. I don't know. I don't really get a lot of phone calls, but let's just see what it says. Perfect. That gives us something concrete to work with. Email and phone calls are classic disruptors, especially because they often feel urgent even when they are not important. Let's continue to step two. When during the day do you feel most focused and energized? And on the flip side, when do you usually experience dips in energy or focus? This will help us identify your natural rhythm so we can better protect your high focus time from those distractions. And obviously, we can continue this conversation and be able to keep working through, and it will continue to go through the steps I've given it as prompts and details about how it should actually walk me through this process. As you can see, it's referencing the information that I built into the knowledge store. And there was a question in the chat about could we see the prompts and how I had built this out? And yes, I'm happy to share that. That's actually something that I will share as we get a little bit further along. Let me just check. Okay, great. We're doing great on time. So we could certainly continue this conversation, but what I wanted you to see is one, how quickly and easily you can build out your own GPT. Two, how you can pull together the information that you have access to be able to build this out and then actually allow you to see it live and show you that it's referencing only the information that I've provided it and walking me through the process. So what I think is really cool about this is that, as we were talking about, the goal here is to find efficient, effective ways to leverage the information that you already have access to. If you're attending trainings, workshops, summits, master classes, courses, whatever it may be, I guarantee that you have, even if it's only the notes that you have taken, notes, workbooks, resources, guides that you can use to build out something like this so that you can see a much greater return on investment and have a personal coach in your pocket that is going to allow you to leverage the information on a regular basis and make it applicable to you and where you're at and your goals. So let's jump back over here. Okay, hopefully let me triple check. Okay, yes. So we just walked through how to build out your own GPT or data store. And again, there are other tools that you can use to do this in, and you can create your own data stores externally and use API keys and different things to build in and be much more robust. But I think that this is a way to get started and make this applicable regardless of tech skills and any of those types of things. So, what my recommendation here is that the best way to get started is to start simple, which is why I wanted to show this in such an approachable way. But just get started. See what you're able to do to test this process, to think about the resources and the information that you have access to, and what you would actually want to do and have a GPT do for you to help support you as you move forward with planning, reviewing of content and information and knowledge, and what I feel is one of the most important parts, the implementation side of it. How can you actually use these tools to your advantage so that you can better leverage the information that you have been learning? And so a few tips on getting started here. One, I recommend that you be strategic with how you organize your notes. And I'll give two recommendations on that. One, with the actual physical or digital of the content itself. Like I showed at the very beginning, you probably have information everywhere. Things that were emailed to you, notes that you've taken in a Google Doc, something that was shared with you through Google Drive, physical worksheets that were given to you, something that was shared in a chat, any of those types of things. So it's probably living in lots of places. When I think about being efficient and how I like to store information, I think about centralization. When I start a new course or class or program, I go into my cloud storage, I create a folder for that course, class, whatever it is. And that's where all of my information lives. So if it's a Google Doc or something that somebody shares with me, I'm downloading that and putting that where all of my other content is. I don't want to, whether it's for building out a GPT or just referencing it independently, I don't want to be looking in 10 different places. It's not efficient. Something is probably going to get lost along the way. Somebody wants to get rid of their Dropbox, so they're asking me to migrate all of the things that they've shared with me, and it's just a mess. I'd rather just have everything centralized and organized from the beginning. I would encourage you to be thinking about that from the standpoint of the efficiency piece of this. But then also think about how you maintain the actual notes themselves. So there was a question about the PDFs that I uploaded. Let me see if I can easily share one of those in here. Give me just one second. Let's see here. Okay, good. So this is a very simple one that I've created for an example of going through an annual review and Q1 goal setting process. So I put this together just to be able to build into the GPT and have something to interact with in this demonstration. But to my point and what I'm trying to illustrate here around how you actually organize your notes, I feel like typically when we're in a training or something, some people might use shorthand. They might just jot down one snippet of a piece of information, something they're going to come back to later and fill in the details. When I'm going through trainings and programs, I will actually be thinking about what are the prompts that I can build with this information as I go. So if I'm keeping like a Google Doc, for example, I might be taking down the notes of what are the takeaways or what's resonating with me from this course or training. And that's what's at the bottom of my sheet. And then I'm creating a section at the top that looks like this. It's probably more built out or slightly different, but it's okay. How can I then migrate this somewhere else when this is over? So in this case, I just gave it details about who is this agent? What do I want it to be doing? You're a skilled time management expert. Your goal is to help me create an actionable, practical plan based on my strengths, goals, and available resources. Here are the steps you need to walk me through. Ask questions for clarity as needed. Confirm understanding before moving to the next step. Once each step has been successfully completed, continue on to the next step. The end deliverable will be identifying my top 3 goals for the year and the first quarter. And then here are the prompts that I built out for this. Step 1 was for this particular step was I wanted it to help me do a brain dump of my wins from the year, which we just saw in the demonstration. That's where it was starting. It was asking me, what were your wins? What worked well? And then in step 2, it can help me summarize the year and build out a word or phrase. So maybe I want a word or phrase of the year. Now, step 3 is identify the top 3 things that I'd like to prioritize in the next year and progress that I'd like to see a year from now. From there, looking at brainstorming what a successful year would look like to me and what can I prioritize in the first quarter to help me accomplish that goal. And then it gives some ideas. I put in this could be outcomes, routines, habits, processes, or process goals, etc. And then moving on, step 5 is whittling down to the list to a top 3. Step 6 is brainstorming what a successful, in this case, since I said build this out for first quarter planning, successful January would look like to me. And what could I prioritize? And then step 7 is whittling that to a top 3 as well. So at the end, yes, I would have my top 3 goals for the year and top 3 goals for the first quarter. So when you think about creating your notes and takeaways, I would recommend thinking about how you can be detailed in this. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. So yes, this is what I had wanted to show as well. Being able to think about how you can develop this information as you go. Because like I said, I like things that are efficient. So to me, I don't necessarily want to come back to this later. If I'm in the class, in the program, doing the thing now, I will have my notes at the bottom that I'm going through live, but then thinking about at the top, like this, how can I be creating the prompts, the next steps, like what are my takeaways or goals with this information? So then I could easily copy and paste this into a new doc like this and just download a PDF, build it into a database or knowledge base. And having it have the specific prompts of, okay, here are the things that I want to be able to do with this. So hopefully that's helpful. That's why I recommend, let's jump back over here, being strategic and organized in your note taking, which probably sounds somewhat basic when I first said it, but hopefully seeing the illustration added a bit more context to what I was describing with that, and thinking about how you can build that out as you're working through your information. So, tip number two is to think about all of the available assets that you have. I've already listed off several of these things. It could be workbooks, it could be worksheets that you've gotten, it could be the notes that you're actually compiling on your own, but it also could be things like a transcript. It could be a chat file that you've received. There are other resources that you could still be pulling together in all of this as well to upload and add into your knowledge base broadly, and think about what things that you have access to that you're able to build into your own, in essence, library, so that your coach can really help you as you're moving forward with trying to implement all of this information. Another tip that I have for you is to just be cognizant of any usage rights or considerations with content. So, as I said initially, this is only for your personal use. This isn't, at least when I'm doing, these aren't GPTs that I'm putting into the store. These are not things that I am publishing anywhere or sharing externally. You also still want to be cognizant of any training resources or materials if you're going to be building them into a tool. One, making sure that it's not being used to train the model or being used the rights that you have to use. Most people's workshops, content, original material, their intellectual property is for personal use. So just being aware of that, I certainly can't speak to all of the ins and outs or every specific course or training or program, but I just wanted to share some general tips, especially if you are going to be plugging in things that you're getting from a fourth tip that I have for you is to think about, I know I talked specifically about how to use this approach for your personal use with training materials and resources. But I would also encourage you, as just an extra tip, is to think about how you can implement this strategy to engage with your own internal meeting notes, manuals, standard operating procedures, transcripts, anything that you already have as well. You can still be building out your own GPT to help you work through those resources. We're working with a client right now and building out a GPT that is basically a data store that will be a training vault. So, leveraging some of their existing standard operating procedures, we're building out some new standard operating procedures, leveraging manuals that are accessible to build into this so that then this one would be an internal shared GPT to be able to then use for helping with their team members, onboarding, being able to assist with questions that come up to help boost their efficiencies and within their team. So there are a lot of ways that you can use something like this. And I would just think about, if you're not already building GPTs for your own personal or internal, like team company use, that this is a great way to get started and to think about doing that instead of only thinking about the ones that are public facing or for chat support or as a lead magnet or anything like that. And then, just as a bonus tip that I wanted to share, which we already went into, so it's not really a bonus tip anymore, but consider building the prompts into your notes as you go. It can help save you time. And to me, it's just when everything is top of mind, it's a great way for me to be thinking through, how do I actually want this workflow to go? And you can always go back and refine these, update them, tweak them, switch out information in your base inside the GPT and expand those things as well. But hopefully, this is providing some great information as a starting point, and you can see how you can leverage this information within your business or personal life to help with goal setting and being able to utilize this information to get started easily with your own GPTs. And with that, I will turn it over for any questions. And let me jump into the chat as well. I was trying to keep an eye on that, but I also like to stay focused and make sure that we're able to cover everything. And I wanted to keep us, shockingly, efficient on our time. If you do have any questions, we do have a few minutes right now. I'd also love to hear any takeaways that you have on this information. You can certainly find me and connect with me in the Gen AI community and as well on Instagram. But with that, I will turn it back over. Let me jump into the chat. Turn it back over to Darby.
Thank you so much, Leandra.
You're
That
welcome.
was great. And I see a few comments immediately. Golden nugget, building prompts into notes is huge. And I would agree. That's a very smart tip
Thank you.
for those getting started with prompting and organizing. It's such a critical aspect of this and making sure you're organizing the right content. We have a question as well, like ChatGPTs versus Claude projects. Any preference with using Claude? Do you use Claude?
A little bit. I feel like Claude is a little finicky. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know what his deal is, but sometimes I feel like he doesn't want to leverage the links or like the attachments that I use as much as with ChatGPT. Somewhat, it seems a bit more seamless to me, especially once I moved over to the pro version and it wasn't timing me out on things. It just seems more simple and simplified. And I think, especially as people are just getting started, it's an easy foray into this
Mhm.
because they're already using ChatGPT for several other things, probably, and they're tinkering with it. So it's just one less platform to navigate through. So personally, I like to do this in ChatGPT, or like I said, Team AI is actually one that I really like, but I didn't want to introduce a new platform and a learning curve of that in addition to getting up to speed with trying to create your own custom GPTs. So yeah, that's where I personally spend more of my time.
That's great. Yeah, and I see Tyrese got something on your end.
I was just thinking that I started using this website called and what it does is it keeps track of all the links that anything that I find interesting, I can just throw it in there, and then it'll organize it for me. So if I'm looking for something to do with SEO or something to do with writing a blog or something, it will organize that for me. Now, taking your idea, I'm thinking that you could take the links from the bucket that you want to work with, put that into a similar type situation, what you're talking about, and then ask it to incorporate those ideas into whatever it is you're working with.
Hmm.
So if you didn't know how to do SEO, you could then take all those videos and things that you've been looking at all this time and throw it in there. And because it knows everything about you now, it can tell you, okay, this is how you would incorporate this stuff into, and then give you a plan, literally.
Yes, I absolutely love that.
Right?
Did you find a
Yeah.
link for that and share it in the chat,
Oh,
Tyrese?
yeah. Hold on one
There
second.
a comment from Bruce. Thanks, Leandra. I hadn't considered using my past accomplishments doc as a knowledge base for planning out my next year. You're giving me some good ideas for building prompts to focus on the highest impact projects going forward.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See another comment from George earlier about Leandra. I like your idea about taking notes while thinking about how to turn them into a prompt. That said, what I've been doing, taking notes sometimes quite disorganized, and then asking ChatGPT to turn that info into workflows that I then turn into a prompt.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I would definitely try out building them on your own and putting those prompts together, especially again when you're in the mindset of the training that you're in. I think when everything is front and center and you're already walking through it, it's a little bit easier than trying to come back to it at a later time, especially if it's been out of sight, out of mind, or it's something that you're like, I need to get reacclimated with what I was even doing or learning
Mhm.
before I can then jump into trying to apply it. So yeah, I'm glad that was helpful. Thank you.
Something I found helpful in the light of doing it when it's fresh in your mind is also voice noting like instructions with the
Mm.
intention that I'm talking out the instruction the same way that I would formulate that as a prompt. Just I tend to speak the much faster than I do typing it. And so even if I'm on my screen, I'll dictate using a Chrome extension that I use called Voice In. Just talk it and cool, it's there. And then I'll go back and maybe edit and format it a little bit. But definitely would second that. Do it while it's fresh in your head. That way you don't have to re get back in the zone when you go down to that. Any guidance or tips on ChatGPT actions feature?
Are you talking about with various G
I think there's an
what is
actions
the ref?
feature inside of the custom GPT build out at the bottom that may have some ability to function call and maybe some other capabilities. Any use of the feature on your end?
Oh, like when you're building them out. Hang on, let
Yeah,
me go back over to one of mine.
because that is a good point that you called out with that once you're building these GPTs inside of your chat GPT instance, if you are typing in a chat form and you at a GPT, you can actually call onto that GPT and bring it into the conversation. There are some limits with that, but that is a good hack for using GPTs inside of existing chats for those of you who are building out multiple of these tools.
Yeah, so I think what they're referring to, yes. So you're talking about being able to use like external information and link out using your API keys and things like that. I haven't done that in this. I have done it within other platforms to be able to, like I have I don't even remember what you call it, but it's like a cloud and like an API key that I use to then link to other content and information. But in this GPT, no, I wouldn't say if you're trying to just follow the steps that I had just shown, no, you wouldn't need to use the actions. That's a bit more advanced. You would certainly be able to easily build this out, as you can see, and make it functional, only utilizing your own knowledge base and resources.
Thank you. Any other questions for Leandra or any insights or key takeaways, golden nuggets? Love to hear them in the comments. As well as those of you watching on YouTube, let us know, drop a comment, any insights, any takeaways, any ahas from what Leandra just shared. Super powerful. And as Bruce just shared here, this discussion reminds me that the AI revolution has greatly increased the need to for each of us to create a personal knowledge management system mess. There's no way our brains can keep up with all of this information. Ain't that the truth? Obsidian and Notion are good tools, but the key is to create a good system for collecting, organizing, and synthesizing your notes and to follow it. Very good points, Bruce. Yes. And I think that echoes what you're saying, Leandra, with organizing your content and having that hub first. And you see how powerful you can activate, you integrate these AI tools to activate and build on top of that knowledge. And then, like you mentioned, there's multiple tools, Obsidian, Notion, and other tools that could act as that, but being organized and synthesizing it and then actually sticking to that as your system, just following it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just great because it does allow you to have that interaction. And to his point, the follow through. I think that's where it can fall off at points. Again, it's out of sight, out of mind. We're all busy. We're all moving on to the next thing. So if you don't have a process and workflow for keeping up with these things, especially as you're learning more and digesting more content, I think it can be hard to keep up with everything. The other thing that I will add on that, what did I want to share here? Something else that I want to add, and of course, it escapes me at the moment. Yeah, I don't recall. Sorry.
Well, if it comes back, then feel free to. I've noticed with myself in just understanding where you're like naturally like storing content already might be exactly where you need to continue being consistent with your content knowledge base. But areas where I know I've stumbled a bit in terms of organization has been, oh, I'm going to use Notion for this type of content. Then I'm going to use Google Drive. Then I'm going to try out Obsidian. Then I'm going to try out this. And then all of a sudden I've got like different notes in all these different places. And like you see with ChatGPT and a number of tools now have direct integrations with things like Google Drive and same with Notion. And so like understanding that you probably already are working with these tools in some way, shape, or form that can plug in as your knowledge base. Maybe just doing a self audit about where's your content out right now? Where are you already naturally like uploading your content, or where could you be uploading more content so that as you're giving more information to from your business, like how's the AI going to be able to adapt with that? And yeah, I think like these like living organism type of AI systems that will get new content from Leandra's business this week. And okay, based on that, I'm going to update this type of thing, or that's going to change the scheduling of that or the other. I think we're going to see a lot more of those type of organizations that are going to need to constantly be in a, well, everything's already constantly in a state of change. And so, like, why would your knowledge base and organization remain static? Is where I think that is leading us to is okay, obviously you still want to have parameters for how AI is like updating your content. You want to make sure it's updating the right content. But it should be relatively seamless to say, okay, I just had this conversation with my contact. We got these PDFs in. Where's all that information going to be stored at? Whether it's your CRM or a Google Drive or otherwise, at least making sure that you're able to go and find that information is going to be really key at the end of the day.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There was a question about how to keep all of your custom GPTs organized and readily accessible. Yeah, you can definitely weigh in on this one too, Darby. For me, I think it's utilizing the sidebar and only pinning or allowing the ones over there that I actually want is one thing, so that I can easily jump into the conversations that I want to have and not get overwhelmed by things, especially if other people have shared GPTs that I'm a part of and that kind of thing that I can access. Also, being very intentional with the description that you use. And as you saw, I use the icon, like I use the little image piece. So it's easy for me to quickly see what is this thing and see it in the list. And typically I only go into my GPTs. I don't just look at the Explore GPT section. So that also can help with navigation. Any other tips or anything that you do?
Yeah, knowing what GPTs you have and labeling them effectively when you make them is really helpful. Mine, I don't know how many I have on my sidebar now because sometimes when you open another tool up, it'll then put it in there. And so I tried to intentionally minimize new GPTs coming in and then just be more specific about which GPTs I do use in my workflow. And so I've got it down to a pretty manageable number where I just know where I'm already going to go for this, or I know that I've got them stored in a library of some sort that I can access them. And so that is where we developed the AI authored library card a few years back for that. I think it was for our first summit or the second summit, where again, if you're in our community, you have access to this in our member or in our free resources section. That's a Notion database basically that I could share how I set this up. And it's basic. Not every one of these is a, what's the word for it? Not every one of these recipes, because that's, I still use that term for them from the early Jasper days. I still see that term used at some companies, but I'm going to share what that looks like so you guys can see. Um, you can clone this for yourself. Like literally, you can go and clone it, copy it, and then build on top of it, or follow a similar structure for yourself. If you're in the Scale with AI VIP, and this is also inside of some other free section over here. If we open it, and this started from just a super simple Google spreadsheet too. And so I just translated this into a Notion file. Basically is imagine each one of these recipes as a custom GPT, as they all very much could be. I have the name. I have a version of it because sometimes we'd have multiple versions that we would build out. So you can see the 1.0 and 2.0. I would tag them with a use case and then tag them with a status and if anyone specific owned them or any dates or otherwise. But this way, I just have one library card, and that's why we call it the library card, where I can go. And then when I open up this, you can customize any of these inside of Notion. So you can make this yours and do a number of stuff with it. But now I could take this and use it to, create my own chat GPT and give it that context. And I could run that recipe in it. And I just put everything in these types of like Notion files for my own. And I have a private one that I have some more like close to the chest, like frameworks and prompts and stuff that I'm developing that aren't necessarily ready for use, or they are just intended to be for my own personal use. And I just know that they're in here if I put them there. And so I just have one place that I go back to and I'll store and update really specific like stacks of prompts or instructions or recipes. And that would, if I don't have a GPT in there, then I have a recipe for something of that nature. And yeah, I found that I like Notion for that as opposed to just a Google Sheet because it gives me the ability to open up a new tab and then create an individual page for that recipe. And that's nice because then I don't have to have a Google Sheet and then a Google document and then be linking inside of some folder. And inside of Notion, you could link pages inside of pages. So I might have like version 1, 2, or 3. It can be a rabbit hole, but at least it's my rabbit hole that I know that I'm going down. Bruce says I use Obsidian for note taking. One advantage is that each note is a separate MD file. This allows me to directly upload the note to ChatGPT as a knowledge doc. It's good insight, Bruce. Yeah, it can be a lot managing all of the different GPTs that you have as you're creating them. And so even from when we started creating recipes with Jasper, that was one of the things that we realized was a problem that we had to address with something like this simple library card. It's just there's a lot of prompts, a lot of different ways to use this, and there's so many creative ways that I've seen people being able to tap into these different types of prompts too. And I've seen people build their own custom libraries just for prompts for themselves or getting people on the same page. But I think just having some source of truth was going to be your home base for really specific prompts, recipes, instructions, SOPs. I think Notion's a great place for it. Certainly not limited to that. But again, just making sure that you know where your stuff is being organized at. And the nice thing with something like a Notion is that a lot of these tools are native are building integrations that just work with something like Notion because it's been around, it's established, and so you have a lot of options with the newer agent systems that you can just say, cool, plug in with my Notion, and it's going to start to reference that right away. Can certainly take a little bit of a learning curve, as anything with learning Notion. So if you are looking for a place to get started, join our community, get that library card, clone it, make a version of your own, and then that's a good starting point for where you can organize. We got a few minutes here till the top of the hour when we kick off the next summit session with the Gamma team. Floor is open right now for the next few minutes. If anyone has anything they'd like to share, questions for Leandra, or any takeaways that you found valuable from today's session. And again, thank you so much, Leandra, for sharing.
You're very welcome.
If we don't have any questions, won't hold you guys hostage here as much as you probably love staring at our faces on Zoom. I think that's going to wrap up this session for the kickoff of the first official session of the Scale with AI Summit Live 2025 Summit Series. And Leandra, thank you so much for sharing and breaking down that process for us or creating your own custom GPTs. Super valuable and useful information. And anyone here who's joining us live or watching on the replay, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube so that you get updates to future videos as part of the Summit series, as well as clips and snippets that we take from these sessions so you can get those actionable insights and go and put them into practice and start growing your business, scaling faster with AI.